Hello. It is Simon Pink from your favourite radio station, Poppy Land Radio. I've got a special guest. He's sort of in the studio, well, virtually. He's on Zoom, and his name, are you ready for this? It's Ash Wilson. I have Ash Wilson on
You
Zoom
very much
with me.
do.
I'm a lucky guy. How you doing, Ash?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Oh, I'm all the more better for speaking to you. Yeah, you're one of my big guitar heroes, and I've been dying to get you on the show for ages. So, Ash, tell us a little bit about what started you on guitar. Where did you first hear it?
Oh, guitar. Well, my parents are really into music, although neither of them play. They music was always on growing up, and I think, like most children of the 80s, did a lot of air tennis racket guitaring to money for nothing. I suppose I actually started on piano, but I ended up with a guitar when I was about 14. My cousin brought one round, and they brought this thing, and it got PlayStation stickers all down the fretboard, as I remember. But I wasn't specifically into guitar music as such. I just kind of liked music, but I played this guitar, and it was just a no brand acoustic. But it was, for somebody that wasn't particularly sporty or academic, this seemed to come, I don't want to say easily. It didn't come easily, but it wasn't like really difficult either. It was just, I was kind of drawn to it from the moment it was in the room. So my Christmas wish list, because my birthday is on Christmas Day, became, can I have a guitar for my birthday and an amp for Christmas? And
what was it? What was the guitar and the amp?
Well, I wanted. It depends how long your show is, but I fell in love with guitars before I even knew what they were, purely based on the name. So my father was a policeman, and he went into work one day and spoke to a colleague of his who played guitar, and he said, "Oh, my son, he's on about getting a guitar for his birthday. What would you recommend?" And his mate said, "Oh, well, I've got a Fender Stratocaster." So Dad came home and he reported back on Fender Stratocaster, and those two words just set off a rush of him. I didn't know what it looked like or what it was, but just the name of it, Fender Stratocaster. I was like, "Oh yeah, I want one of them." Well, obviously, look, we looked into it, and there's no way my parents could afford to buy me a Fender Stratocaster out of the gate for my first guitar, so I had a Squier one, which was great. And I remember the first time I went to a local guitar shop, and they had, so again, I didn't know what one guitar from another, but they must have had 100 all lined up on the wall in this place with vintage Marshall amps everywhere. And I remember the guy had two old 50s Les Paul Gold Tops, a left-handed one and a right-handed one too. And again, I didn't know what they were at the time, but it looked cool. And I just remember being very, very, very overwhelmed and excited by all things with necks and strings and bodies, and it became a bit of an addiction, really. And immediately it was like, no, I want to do this. And although I've come around the houses, I've been a teacher and a wiper blade fitter along the way of getting to the point to becoming a sort of a gigging guitar player. I've always done it, and I've always had either a band or a project on the go. It's something that I love to do as much as I can. I'm very lucky that I get to do it every day, really.
Wow. So thank goodness for your dad being a policeman. He did some proper investigating.
He did investigate.
In the line of duty, got you a guitar. So well done, Dad. So what guitarists were you listening to back then?
So we had a VHS player, if you remember those bad boys. And my dad had this Live at Nebworth box set that had about 3 or 4 videos in it. Clapton had a couple of songs on there, and it was that period where he was in the big suits with I think he had Nathan East on bass and Steve Ferroni on drums, and August kind of era, so Tearing Us Apart and all those kind of Phil Collins produced Clapton tunes, Bad Love, so that there's a couple of live versions of that. There was this Genesis one, and they had obviously Mike Rutherford playing a Strat, and Daryl Sturmer bashing away on a Strat. Pink Floyd were on there. He also had a Strat. So it was very much like what I was seeing on the screen was before I went to get or pick a guitar. I really, really knew I wanted one of those. And so through that box set, I kind of pillaged my dad's CD and record collection and started to pull out these various. If it had a guitar on the front cover, I started listening to it. So I was more hunting for things at home. There was no internet really. Well, there wasn't any internet at the time. So it was a case of just going through that. Thank God, Dad had like players like Rory Gallagher in his collection, and I mean, there was a lot of prog. We grew up listening to a lot of Genesis. Like Genesis were really probably the main thing we listened to, which although isn't like guitar, so sort of post Hackett, not particularly known for loads of guitar solos. Musically, it's still very interesting, and which I think is why my brother ended up becoming a drummer, really, because we had Collins on sort of left, right, and centre, as everybody did in the 80s, I think. So yeah, that became it. I became very interested in guitar players, but these are guitar players that had kind of gone through the blues thing and were writing pop tunes, but played guitar solos, which I think in the 80s and the early 90s was still a thing. Like Money for Nothing, for example. Mark Knopfler was another one who I used to listen to a lot. So it took me a while to get to blues because, to be honest, when I first heard it, I found it simple, and it didn't really get. When I first started playing guitar, once I'd kind of got through school and decided I was going to go to music college, I was obsessed with people like Van Halen and Steve Vai and Joe Satriani. And I was kind of on this road to, I'd be sat in the practice room doing, practicing scales to metronome every second of every day I had free, on a free period. So it took me, somebody played me a Stevie Ray Vaughan song at college. I think it was Scuttlebutting. So again, it had technique. It was a fast played song. But the sound of the guitar, all these guitarists I've been listening to mostly played with tons of delay, tons of reverb, or tons of gain, or tons of all three. And that Vaughan's sound was really clear. There was virtually there's no processing going on at all. And I was quite struck by how you really had to perfect the technique to be able to learn this song. And then so I got a Stevie Ray Vaughan DVD, and it had a version of Voodoo Child on it. And I'd not really come across Hendrix at this point.
Okay.
Which is nuts, isn't it? So yes. By the time I'm 18, I obviously knew who Jimi Hendrix was, but I was kind of, oh, well, that's old music. I'm into this, I'm listening to, Surfing the Alien. So I then got into Hendrix and bought all the wrong albums. So instead of buying like Audio Experience, the first Hendrix record I bought, I think, was Live at the BBC, which has just tons of really the trio kind of jamming through versions of their recorded studio material. Some of the versions are not finished yet. Some of them they've been playing for a few months, so they're a bit different. So the production's not great because it's live recorded at the Beeb. So again, I was like, I don't know if I get this because it took me a while to find my Hendrix. I mean, Hendrix is probably still my favorite guitarist now. Has been a constant sort of thing really for me. Because of the sheer aggression in his playing and his willingness to he's not really trapped in any genre, I don't think. I think he's sort of very unfairly grounded in blues rock, but if you listen to what he did over that 4-year period he was recording his own stuff, there's a massive breadth of genre bending going on there, almost like a blues rock harmony, but with a jazz mentality, I think.
You're talking about it. It's. I want to play something now. I'm stuck because you come up with Clapton, you come up with Stevie, you come up with Jimmy.
Yeah, all the usual suspects.
Which one do you want? Which one do you want out of the three of them? And that's a difficult choice.
I mean, the one who's had the most effect still, whose stuff is still, I'm still trying to get into my playing, is probably Hendrix.
Okay, I'll tell you what. Let's stick a Hendrix number on right now, and we'll be
Let's do
back
that.
after this.